Ruben Amorim and Manchester United will be without Harry Maguire and Manuel Ugarte for their Europa League clash with Real Sociedad. Our reporter Daniel Kahn was in his news conference just now, so let's catch up with Dan now. So Dan, good evening to you. Did Amorim confirm the severity of the injuries to those two at all?
Yeah, good evening here from the Real Arena, the home of Real Sociedad, where Manchester United will be taking on one of the biggest matches of the season tomorrow evening. But as you mentioned there, didn't start off particularly well because two more names added to a very lengthy injury list for Manchester United and Ruben Amorim. He and the club confirmed earlier today that, as you mentioned, Harry Maguire, Manuel Ugarte, both have suffered minor injuries picked up against Fulham in that FA Cup loss last weekend. And Amorim didn't necessarily expand on what they were necessarily, but what he did stress was at this point in the season, they just can't take any risks with their fitness. He said they're back at Carrington, they're trying to recover them as quickly as possible. Small issues perhaps, but when you look at the length of that injury list that Ruben Amorim has been having to contend with, the likes of Ahmad not being available in terms of his front options, Sandro Martinez, Johnny Evans, both injured at the back, Mason Mount, Luke Shaw, the list does go on for Ruben Amorim, and it's, I think, very clear from what he told us just under an hour ago that by no means could he take risks with these two players who have been so central to him since he arrived in November.
Yeah, Dan, it's his last chance, isn't it, at a trophy in his first season at Manchester United. So it's all systems go and glory, maybe, in the Europa League.
Yeah, Dalmesh, I mean, it's very easy for us to now pin this game tomorrow evening. The United season hinges on this because, as you mentioned, it's their one chance now of silverware. And it was mentioned in the press conference just then that it's not just the silverware, the guarantee of Champions League football next season, considering where they are at in the Premier League table. But it's also the financial incentives that winning the Europa League would entail as well, which would make a huge difference to Manchester United, as we've seen the stories in recent weeks around the financial state of the club and what Ineos are trying to do to make up dividends where they can. But in terms of the Europa League, of course, it is a momentum booster potentially because it has been the one competition this season they're still unbeaten in. They've performed well away. The likes of Fenerbahce, for example, they did pretty well considering that atmosphere. So when it was put to Ruben Amorim just how important is this competition, he's very clear that this is a work in progress and they have to have a bigger, longer-term project in mind, and winning the Europa League wouldn't just be guaranteeing a successful season by any means.
What I mean is that we have to think as a club as a long project and not just solve things in this moment and try to, if you win the cup, we are in the bad position. If we won the Europa League, we'll be in amazing position in the next year because the problems continue here, even with the Champions League. So that's what I want to say, and I know that you guys make counts of my rescission, and so I'm just trying to show that I don't care, and I'm really confident on the big goal of this club. That's all. I'm trying to show the big picture to our supporters. That's all.
And you're confident in yourself that you can be the man to turn this.
That is clear. That is clear. I know what to do, but sometimes this is a result. It's a life of results, and you have to win games. So I know the consequences when we don't win games, but I'm really confident. Since day one, a little bit more frustrated, but I'm still confident.
Dan, there's been plenty of talk about Amorim's system, isn't he? The way he plays, or he likes his players to play. Results still aren't going his way, so could we see a change?
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? Because it feels like since Ruben Amorim's appointment at Manchester United, so much has been made about his system. The amount of questions he's been asked about this 3-4-2-1. Are the players the right players to be trying to learn his system? And he got asked about it again today. And I think the interesting thing is when you look at the injuries Manchester United have, you look at the players who are available, you do perhaps think, are they the best positions for those players? For example, you look at the number 10 positions. One thing Ruben Amorim mentioned actually in his news conference, which was very interesting, he was asked why Chido Obi is not being included in his lineup that United had to submit at the early bits of February. And he said, well, the context of the squad was completely different. I still considered Joshua Zirkzee as a number 9 as well as Rasmus Højlund. Well, since then, Chido Obi, he scored a hat-trick, a lot of goals for the academy, and he's really gone up in terms of Ruben Amorim's estimations, clearly. But also Zirkzee's now playing as one of those 10s rather than a number 9. So it's very interesting to see how the players are slightly changing their roles in his system. And could he change it? Because they still have only won 2 games in the last 6 in all competitions. The consistency of wins, 3 points in the Premier League clearly isn't there just yet. But very interesting. You heard in his previous answer just the belief Ruben Amorim has in terms of turning things around long-term and short-term at Manchester United. He has full belief as well, not just in the system, but his idea of football as well.
I think it's quite simple. I think we talk about the system. I think the system is not the problem, it's the way of playing. You build up with 3, you can build up with 3, with 2 defenders and 1 midfielder going down. So it's quite simple. I don't see the football like that. The problem of our team is not the system. We have a lot of problems. We are trying to work on these problems. Of course, every system needs different characteristics. But I was always really clear, and I have one idea. I'm still really confident because I have an idea how to play football. I will not change that, no matter what. I will not change that. And I'm not talking about the system. It's the way I see football. I will not change that. And we are going to do it. Or not, we'll see.
Yeah, Ruben Amorim, as I mentioned, just full of belief in his system and his philosophy, as well as the squad, and the fact that hopefully they can turn things around. And that starts here at Real Sociedad tomorrow evening. What I would say is a lot of these players at United played Sociedad 2 years ago in the Europa League. They did win here in this stadium in the group stage. Alejandro Garnacho getting his first goal for Manchester United as a teenager. He's not scored in 21 games. Perhaps he and the likes of Joshua Zirkzee, Rasmus Højlund can finally find that consistent goal-scoring touch. Feels like they need it, Ruben Amorim needs it, and perhaps they can get their season recharged when they take on Real Sociedad in the Europa League tomorrow evening.
Hey Reds, big news coming out of Manchester United today as Ruben Amorim has doubled down on his stance regarding the Europa League. With key injuries piling up and questions surrounding his system, Amorim remains defiant, insisting that United's long-term future isn't solely dependent on this competition. But is this the right mentality? And could this gamble cost United both in the short and long term? Let's get into it. As United prepare to face Real Sociedad, the squad has been hit with yet more injury concerns. Harry Maguire and Manuel Ugarte have been ruled out with minor injuries picked up in the FA Cup defeat to Fulham. Amorim made it clear in his pre-match press conference that taking risks at this stage of the season is not an option. This only adds to an already lengthy list of absentees, with Lisandro Martinez, Johnny Evans, Mason Mount, and Luke Shaw all sidelined. It's no secret that United have struggled with consistency, and these injuries have forced Amorim to tweak his approach multiple times. Yet, despite the setbacks, the boss remains unwavering in his belief in his system. But before we go any further, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for all the latest Manchester United updates. Your support means the world, and we've got plenty more exclusives coming your way. One of the biggest talking points from Amorim's press conference was his refusal to change his footballing philosophy. When asked about the team's struggles, he insisted that the problem isn't the system, but rather the way the team executes it. Amorim is determined to stick to his vision, regardless of external pressure. United have only won 2 of their last 6 games in all competitions, and fans are beginning to question whether Amorim's tactical approach truly suits the current squad. Players like Joshua Zirkzee have been moved into unfamiliar roles, and promising youngster Chido Obi wasn't even included in the squad submission back in February. However, Amorim still believes the project needs time. He dismissed the idea that winning the Europa League would automatically fix United's issues, saying that the club needs long-term planning, not just short-term trophies. With the Premier League top 4 race looking increasingly difficult, the Europa League represents United's best chance of securing Champions League football next season. Financially, winning the competition would also provide a much-needed boost, especially given the recent reports about United's financial struggles under Ineos. Yet, Amorim played down the idea that this game defines the season. He acknowledged that United need to win matches but remained focused on the bigger picture rather than short-term fixes. This mentality could either be seen as admirable long-term planning or a dangerous lack of urgency. United fans, what do you think? Is Amorim right to focus on the bigger project, or should he prioritize winning the Europa League at all costs? Let me know in the comments. One thing's for sure. It's all on the line tomorrow night against Real Sociedad. Can United step up and prove their doubters wrong? We'll have all the reaction right here, so make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out. Thanks for watching, and as always, glory, glory, Man United.